to paradise, where everything is nice. You take me to very, 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 very paradise. Take me to paradise, where everything is nice. You take me to very, 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 very paradise.
Welcome to Stitch and Stillness. Here in Emz Universe, where we learn to crochet slowly, creatively, and one stitch at a time. If you enjoy slow learning and intentional creativity, make sure to subscribe and join the community. Hey, my beautiful people. Welcome back to Stitch and Stillness. This is officially episode 5, where we are going to be covering stitch techniques. So, now that we've created our foundation chain in the previous episode, we can begin building rows of crochet stitches. So firstly, I'm going to start with explaining how to identify your stitches. So when you look closely at your work, you'll notice that each stitch forms a small V shape at the top. So as this is the foundation chain, you'll notice that it has a small V like this that looks like a loop, more of like a U, I would say, to begin with. So you'll notice that we have a set of loops on our foundation chain. And these loops are where we insert our crochet hook to create the next row. So when you see these little loops here, this is where we will be inserting our crochet hook. So we always insert our crochet hook into the center of these loops. Now we are going to move on to working into the stitch. So to create a new stitch, we start by inserting the hook under the loops. So firstly, what you're going to do is you are going to yarn over, and you are going to start by putting your crochet hook in the center of this loop. So you are going to turn the work on its side, and you are going to push your crochet hook through the center of the loop until you've got the loop over your crochet hook. You are then going to yarn over, and you are going to, once you've yarned over, you are then going to pull your yarn through that loop. So now you have 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook, and then to close the stitch we are going to yarn over, and we are going to pull this loop through all 3 loops. So we're going to pull through all 3 loops like so, and as you can see, we have just created our first stitch, and this stitch is called a half double crochet stitch. I will be going through core beginner stitches, so don't worry too much about not knowing the names of the individual stitches just yet, because we will be covering that later down the line. And then we are going to repeat what we've just done 4 more times until we get to the end of this row. So we're going to start by yarning over our crochet hook, and we are now going to be placing our crochet hook in the center of the second loop here. So we're going to turn the work on the side, and we are going to push our crochet hook slightly under the loop, and we are then going to yarn over once more, and we are then going to pull the crochet hook through the loop. So you now have 1, 2, 3 loops on your crochet hook, and we are going to yarn over once more, and we are then going to pull this hoop through the remaining loops, and that then gives you your second stitch. Now we're going to do that again. So we're going to yarn over, and we're now going to be placing our crochet hook into the center of the next loop. So we're going to turn the work on its side, and we're going to push the crochet hook through the center like so. We're going to yarn over, and then we're going to pull the yarn through the loop. So once again, we have 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull the yarn through each loop. And there you go. We now have 3 stitches on our row, and we've got 2 more to do. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to yarn over. We're going to be putting our crochet hook into the center of this loop. So we're going to push the crochet hook through the center. We're going to yarn over, and then we're going to pull up a loop. So again, we've got 3 loops on our hook, and then we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through all 3 stitches, and then we're just going to repeat that 1 more time. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to place our crochet hook through the center of the last stitch, and we're going to yarn over once more, and then we're going to pull up a loop. And once we've got all 3 loops on our hooks, we're then going to yarn over again and pull through all 3 loops. And now we've made it to the end of the row. So as you can see, we have the first stitch that we did at the beginning. We've got the second stitch that we worked into the next loop, the third stitch that we worked into the loop just after, the 4th stitch, and then the 5th stitch, which closes up the row. And that is how you create your first row of crochet stitches. And you would continue repeating this process across each row until you make a complete swatch. So now that we have crocheted our first row, we're now going to practice turning our work. So at the end of each row, we turn our work so we can crochet back in the opposite direction. And this allows the fabric to grow row by row. So you will yarn over and pull through 1 loop, which is called chaining 1. So we've just made 1 chain. And then we're literally just going to turn the work in the opposite direction. So we're now working on the opposite side of your work. And we will repeat the exact same thing that we just did in the first row. So we'll start by yarning over. And as you can see now, once you create your stitches, it will create a row that will have V's at the top. So every time you create a stitch, it creates a little V at the top of your work. And this is the area that we're now going to be working in. So as you can see on the stitches, you have a row of V's at the top. And if you turn your work on its side, you now have a hole in between. So just below the 2 V stitches at the top, you've now got a hole in the center, and this is the area where we are now going to place our crochet hook. So you've already yarned over. So what you're going to do now is you are going to be placing your crochet hook in the center. So just below the 2 V's, we are going to be pushing our crochet hook just underneath the 2 V's, and we are going to yarn over, and then we are going to pull the yarn through the loop. And now you've got 3 loops on your hook. We're then going to yarn over once more, and we're then going to pull the yarn all the way through all 3 loops. And now you've created your first stitch on the 2nd row. And we're going to repeat that process until we get to the end of row 2. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to place your crochet hook underneath the 2 V's, you're going to yarn over once more, and then you're going to pull the yarn through the center until you've got 3 loops on your hook. You're then going to yarn over and you're going to pull the yarn through all 3 loops, and you've now created your 2nd stitch in the row. And we're going to repeat that sequence another 3 times. So you always begin with yarning over, you're going to place your hook below the 2 V's and push it all the way through. We're then going to yarn over, you're going to pull the yarn through the loop until you've got 3 on your hook. You're then going to yarn over again and you are going to pull through all 2 stitches. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times. So yarn over, you're going to place your hook through the 2, if you notice there's 2 V's here, we're going to place our crochet hook through the V's, yarn over, and just pull some more yarn, and then you are going to pull the yarn through the 2 loops until you've got 3 loops on your hook, and then you're going to yarn over and you are going to pull up a loop through the remaining loops. And here you go, you've just completed your second row of stitches, which should look something like this. So as you'll notice, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches at the bottom, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. So when you're creating rows, it's always good to count as you go as well. Count your stitches, make sure that you have the same number of stitches across all rows, because if you forget to place your stitch at the front or at the end of a row, it can impact the size of your work. So I would just get into the habit of counting your stitches and counting your rows as you crochet, and honestly, just take your time with counting stitches. You are going to make mistakes, like it's inevitable. If you need additional support with being able to identify your stitches, you can use stitch markers and you can use bobby pins just to mark out the first and last stitch in your row, and that will also make it more helpful for you to identify where you need to end your row and where you need to begin your row. But that wraps up today's lesson. I really hope that you now feel a bit more confident with identifying your stitches, knowing how to count your stitches and how to count your rows, and knowing how to confidently turn your work. In the next episode, we are going to be learning how to join yarn and change colours, which allows you to add variety to your crochet projects. So I hope to see you in the next episode, and I thank you for stitching with me today. And that wraps up today's lesson. Thank you so much for stitching with me. If you enjoyed today's lesson and you want to continue learning with Stitch and Stillness, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Always remember to take your time, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next stitch. Bye.